Hello and welcome to July's Celebration and Mini Catalogue card class. This is card number 1 of 4. All the measurements in the written tutorials are in both metric and imperial. And for this card we're using the lovely new Sunkissed stamp set from the new mini catalogue. I've started with a basic black card base and just scored that in half and burnish that along the edge there, and then the next layer is another black layer, and I'm not sure if you can see it on there. It has been the background's been die cut with this stitched greenery die. So I'm just going to bring in my Stampin' Emboss machine and just run that through. And this panel is just slightly smaller than the card base front. This is a fabulous die and creates a great background layer, so that's just going to go on there. But firstly, before I do that, there's a piece of this black and white striped DSP, so I'm just going to adhere that along that left hand side. And that along there, so you can, if you want it to be even top and bottom where the stripes start and stop, you can do that. And then just want to trim that down. Yeah. So you can adhere that now. There are a couple of ways to do that. Do it with the layering panel that I do, which is a few sheets of old card adhered together, or just dimensionals. I'll just do some dimensionals on here. Want a few to make sure it's nice and even. Should be okay. And then just pop that on the front. And that's all ready to have the watercolouring popped on when we're ready for that. So the next part we're going to do is the watercolouring. So we've got a piece of the shimmery white cardstock, stays on ink, the jet black, because that is going to, we can watercolour with that. So we want to pop that, I'll just bring in actually this from here. So you want to give it a really good ink up, and it does pay to have your stays on ink very juicy, because it can stick to the paper if you don't get it on and off quickly. So give it a good press down, and then we're going to die cut that now. So we know where we're at with that. So I'll just, so I've got one of these circles, and that is from the Stylish Shapes. They're a new set, and there are circles, squares, and some banner dies in too. It's the Stylish Shape dies. And of course it's got stitching, which always adds a lovely touch. So let's run that through there. And we've got lots of colours for this, and also a bit of paper towel or tissue, and the colours, which will all be listed in the tutorial. So I might just start with crumb cake. It's just an area that hasn't got, we're not doing too much of. So we're just going to do this, the trunks. So that's quite fine, so you don't, it doesn't matter too much, but just to get a bit of colour on there really, so it doesn't look totally black. And actually I'm using an old water aqua painter, but the newer ones, there is a fine one which will work really well for this. So just run that down just to get a bit of colour. And another option would be just to use the Stampin' marker, Stampin' Right marker. And then I just want to put a bit of the sand here. It's just a little bit down there. And just those tips of those, or the ends of those branch. And there's, well, that's C on that side. And you could use a little bit of soft suede just to add a little bit of on those darker bits. Just maybe on there too, just on a bit of the shading, but that's don't have to get too particular if you don't, you know, want to, it doesn't matter. And then the grass here, down here, I've got the Granny Apple Green, because it has all the shading on it anyway. It's kind of done for you, just if you want to add a little bit extra. And if you just take it straight off the pad, then it's a little bit more concentrated. Those darker bits. And then for the top, I wanted a slightly different green. So I've got the Old Olive. Want to water that down, just add that, and I am going sort of over the edge just so the colour shows up. I don't want to make it too difficult to do. And I've just taken a little bit off here just to add a bit of darker colour to that. Makes it add a bit of interest. And I might just bring a bit of that Granny Apple Green in, just to lighten up those edges a bit. Add a bit of variation. You don't have to really have any rhyme or reason. I think it just rough. It works really well. And then we've got Night of Navy for the C down the bottom. It's not much, just a little bit down here. Then just take a little bit off here and just add a couple of little sort of areas just to add a little bit of variation to that colour. Right, and then lastly we're going to do the balmy blue around the outside. So what I recommend, it's quite good to get a bit that's sort of mixed up already, so you've got it there ready to work with straight away. So just add some water to your tray and then you've got that all ready to go. And then I wouldn't get too close to what you've already done, it will move towards it anyway as it sort of seeps into the paper. Just sort of get it down so it just does start absorbing into the paper. It just gives sort of the same sort of colour all over the background before we start adding a bit more colour nearer to the palms and the sea. So you've just got that sort of that background's at the moment all the same colour. And then what we're going to do is start making a little bit darker around everything that's in there. So just want to bring that colour in and go around the outline of things and then just feed it out. And because that's still wet, it blends it and sort of does the work for you really. And it just depends what sort of depth of colour. And I'll just take that back a little bit. So, and as you can see, I'm fairly loosely going around. It's not very, you can be more particular if you want, but don't actually have to. And then I'll just blend those out a little bit. And if it starts drying, just add a little bit more water just to squeeze out a little bit more, blend it. And once you're happy with how it's looking, every time you do this it looks slightly different, so that's fine, that's all good to go. So just set that aside for a little bit to dry. You can use your heat tool if you want to get it dried off a little bit quicker. And then I'm going to do the happy birthday, and I've got happy birthday is from the artistically inked stamp set. Of course, anything, you know, any happy birthday sentiment or whatever sentiment you like, that will work. So just put a little bit of the embossing buddy, Versamark, and then I'm going to trim that right down so it doesn't have to be too straight. And some white embossing powder on there. and just emboss that, so it won't be a moment. And that just seemed to not quite get right down there, so I've just got one of the white Stampin' chalk markers, so I'm just going to pop that on there just to extend that H a little bit. And then I want to trim that down, so just bring in my little trimmer. So just trim both. And this one's quite an easy one to separate. There's quite a good distance between the happy and the birthday, and then I'll just trim off a bit. It doesn't matter too much because it is going on black, so it won't stand out too much if it's not even or straight. Should be okay. No, I just take a little bit off the top. That one too, better have them both the same. Okay, so that is good to go. So now I just need to tie a bow. So I've just got this linen thread. It always ties a great bow. And then I'm going to pop this together. So it's not quite dry, but it will be okay. I'll just pop plenty of dimensionals on so it'll be nice and flat. See, so even that one looks slightly different. So that one's just going to sit about there. And then I've got a glue dot. Pop that about there. And then just lay that bow onto it. Then I'm going to pop my happy on top of that. Actually, it's quite big, that one, so I might just bring it down a little bit. And I want to put dimensional, so I'll just pop, it's going to go either side of that. So just pop one there, and I'll just have half one, I think, just to go on this part of the sentiment. Sure that's straight, and then this is just going to sit here, so I'll just pop a couple on here and it will just sit over the edge of the watercolouring. About there. Trim those down later, or pop a book over them for a wee while just to flatten them down. They've got a mind of their own at the moment. And then lastly, I've got these rustic metallic adhesive back dots, which I think work really well on this card because it's kind of a masculine looking card. So I'll just pop one down there, one up here, and one up over here. And yeah, that is it. That I don't think that took too long to watercolouring. You might of course want to take a bit more time, but as you can see, you don't have to. You can make it sort of quite quickly. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.